Up until now, we've been searching for exactly what we want. For instance, we searched for Osborne, or the Owen Osborne, or Oswald, or anything. We typed in exactly what we wanted. Now we want to delve into the symbols menu. And let's start with ranges. Your typical scenario is a date range, but you can search on ranges of numbers, time, and even text. And this allows you to go ahead and quickly find records that are greater than or less than or between dates or between numbers or between text or between times. So we're going to try the date of birth field. And we're going to go in and use this feature for the table view since we don't have the date field here, the date of birth. We're going to modify, hit plus, go to the DOB, click OK, and now it's been added for us. Now if we show all records, you'll notice that only a few of these records, the first two that we entered manually, have dates of birth. So what we need to do is put some data in here so we can fiddle around with this and try out this feature. So we're going to do an import. But we're going to do a different import than we did before. So we're going to go to Import Records, File. Now it's very important before you do this that you have all records showing. And if you don't have 46, don't worry about it. You don't have to have exactly the same number as me. It won't make a difference on what we're doing. What you'll find on your work files is a file called dob.fp7, and this has 44 dates of birth in it. We're going to go ahead and import that DOB data over our existing data. Not add new records, but import over. So we'll click Open here. Now what we want to do is match up DOB with DOB. You could move it up there if you wanted to, but we can also choose Matching Names. Just simply moves it up there for you, and you're set to go. Another important thing is we want to update existing records in Found Set, not add new records, update. So it's going to take just the date of birth and move that data in over it. It's not going to touch any of these other fields. They're going to stay the same. And you also have the option of adding remaining data as new records. You can choose that if you want, but then they won't have any names and things like that. So we're going to not choose that. If there was any extra data, we just won't import it. So let's go ahead and click Import. We'll perform auto enter options. There are less records in the data source, no big deal. Tells you what your summary is. 44 were imported. And you can see that I believe 2 of them at the end don't have dates. But that'll be fine. You can see we have a good range of years here, all the way from 1925 up to the 1980s. So now we can do a date range search. So let's go into Find mode. We're going to go into our DOB field. And we're going to type in less than 1/1/1950. Now you can get these operators if you want from this menu here. And we're starting with the less than, but you have less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, a range, today's date, and we're going to get to go over quite a few of these. But you can just type it in. Sometimes it's easier to do that. Then you perform the find, and you can see that we found all of these dates that are less than 1950. And if we go back into Find mode, let's go ahead and type in greater than or equal to. And you can choose the operator here if you want. It'll put in this nifty character that's a greater than or equal sign, which I don't know what the keyboard equivalent is on there, but I like to do it this way, greater than or equal. It's much easier to type. You don't have to go to the menu and things like that. We'll type 1/1/1950. We'll perform the find. And you can see it's found all of these years that are greater than January 1st, 1950, or equal to it, in fact. So there's how you do your less than and greater than, or less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. But you can also do these searches on your text fields or number fields or time fields if you want. Let's give an example of this text field since we have it here. And we'll type in less than D. We'll perform that. You can see we found all last names that are less than D. Very simple. Let's go back into Find mode. And we're going to switch over to the date of birth field again. And notice that we have an operator called range. And you can choose it from here, but I find it easier to type in. We're going to type in 1/1/1950, then 3 periods, 12/31/1959. Okay, so find everything in the decade of 1950. We'll hit the Perform Find, and just go in and look at them. It looks like we have all 1950 years. We can also do that same range inside a text field if you want. Go to last name, hit A .D, hit Perform Find, and you see it's all the letters between A and D. It was actually essentially the same thing as we did less than D. Now let's go ahead and find out how to find birthdays. This is a nifty thing to do and was quite complicated in FileMaker 7 and earlier versions. In FileMaker 8, this new feature called a wildcard that you can use in dates came into play. And it's really cool. So we're going to go into find mode and say we want to find all birthdays where we don't care about the day or the year. In other words, we only care that the month is number 1. Otherwise, we don't care about the day or the year. Let's perform that. And you can see we have 3 birthdays in that month. So that's pretty nifty. I like that a lot. It was much more difficult to do in previous versions of FileMaker, or earlier in FileMaker 8. So I don't take this feature lightly. I really like it a lot. Now let's go back into find mode. We're going to type in // If you look at the operators, that's today's date. So if you don't know what today's date is, or you just want to make it easier to type it in, just put // Now we don't have any date of birth here for the current day, so we can't really do that search, but we can go ahead and switch over to our contacts and go to our timestamp. And let's go ahead and actually we're going to go to the timestamp mod because I know we've modified some of the records today. So let's go ahead and do // and we'll perform that find. And you can see we found 44 of 46 records. Remember, the last 2 records didn't get any date of birth on them. So these are the ones we found are these. Let's see what it actually put in there because it's kind of interesting. There's a feature called Modify Last Find, which goes into find mode but shows you the criteria that was entered before. And you can see we have // but it's put in a space, asterisk, colon, asterisk, colon, asterisk. That's because you can use these wildcards anywhere on text fields, all kinds of things. So it's gone ahead and put the wildcards in there for you because this is a timestamp field. It's put them in for the time portion of it. And again, so all you had to do is enter this, and it wouldn't care about what time it was. It would just search on that, and then when you go back and look at it, you have the wildcard in there. So the wildcards are very, very handy. And in fact, all the operators are handy, but we'll go over all these in time. But for right now, these range operators are probably some of the most useful. Probably the ones I use the most other than, let's say, the equal sign right here, which we'll go over as well. So just remember, type them. It'll be much faster. Greater than, less than, combine the greater than the equal sign, or put in 3 dots if you want to range, or use the wildcards, the asterisk, if you want to as well.